everyone. Welcome to another episode of Panda Knows Linguistics. I'm your host, Jack Mao. I'm sorry that I have not been putting out videos for a long time, but I really want to thank all my subscribers who, have motivated me to get back into it and, trying to put more videos out there to help you with your linguistics journey. So I really appreciate it. So today, what we're going to do is to introduce you to the world of linguistics. So as you can see, I'm using a pyramid as our metaphor for the subfields of linguistics, from the most fundamental aspects of linguistics all the way to more developed and or evolved or more complicated aspects of linguistics. So basically, we are from the baby level to be very matured king. Matured king, I don't know why I say that, but whatever. So the first aspect we're going to talk about is phonetics. So phonetics has three subcategories. One is articulatory phonetics, one is called acoustic phonetics, and the third is auditory phonetics. So for articulatory phonetics, basically we're studying how the sounds are produced. So imagine our throat, all the way from lung and the throat and the mouth is a giant tube. So how do you change and manipulate the shape of the tube in order to produce different sound? That is what we're studying here. And number two, for acoustic phonetics, basically we are visualizing the acoustic signals of the sounds that we produced. We can see the sound waves, or there's something called a spectrogram. There are a lot of things we can see, we can visualize it. So we can study the acoustic properties of our speech sound. And number three, of course, we're talking about our ear, right? Our ears are very complicated machinery, and the mechanics there is really complicated. So all those complicated mechanics will help us to receive the sound from the source and to transmit it into signals, nerve signals, into our nerves and into our brains, and finally we get the information. So we study perceptions. Phonology is actually the mathematics of the sound pattern of languages. So what do you mean by mathematic patterns? Well, now we learned phonetics. We learned how the sounds are produced and how they are transmitted and how they are perceived. But what can you tell about the sounds that make up of language? So for example, I have an example here in English. These three words: important, inconvenient, intoxicated. So now I want you to pay attention. How do you pronounce the second sound of each word? I colored them actually. So I'll give you a few seconds to see. Do you think they're different, or do you think they're pronounced exactly the same? The answer is they're pronounced differently. Actually, how to pronounce them is decided what comes after them. So for the number one, we have P comes after it. So actually we'll pronounce the letter M, or the sound M. So why is that the case? Because P, right? You are using both of your lips. So in order to prepare our lips, our oral muscles to produce P, then whatever before the P is already in the process of preparing it. So we close our lips while pronounce the So that is our M. So for number two, the letter C actually pronounced as K, right? Convenient. K. So K is at the back of our throat. So that's why N is also pronounced in the back of our throat to prepare to pronounce the K. So inconvenient. Inconvenient. So for the third word, it's the same way. When we pronounce T, our tongue tip is actually touching the back of our upper teeth. So we need to pronounce the N, the nasal sound, also the same way, with our tongue tip touching the back of our upper teeth. Which nasal is that? N. That's why it's intoxicated. So these three sounds before the P, K, T, those three nasal sounds are pronounced differently. They are m, ng, and n. So this process is a well-known phonological process found in a lot of world languages called assimilation. Assimilation means make two things together, right? Make two things the same. So you can see here the nasals are assimilated according to what following. So let's move along. Next one is morphology. Morphology is studying the word formations in world languages. For example, let's take the English word cycle, which is a noun, right? And also can be a verb. I'm cycling, right? Then if we add the prefix recycle, it becomes a new word with a new meaning. And then if we add able, recyclable, it changes into an adjective. Something is recyclable. You can recycle it, right? And then if we really try to be fancy, we can add the noun suffix, recyclability. So now it's the quality of being able to be recycled, right? So morphology is actually a very important subfield of linguistics because a lot of languages rely on morphology to get the meaning conveyed. So some languages will have very, very long word, but actually it's not a word anymore. That word maybe contains 10 different meaning units in them, right? So it just keep gluing on. So morphology is actually the device for these languages to convey their meaning. So let's move along. Next is syntax. Syntax, we study sentence formation. So for example, let's look at this sentence. The chicken is ready to eat. How many kinds of interpretations can you come up with? I come up with two interpretations. Number one is the chicken is ready to eat some worms. So actually the chicken is the one who eats. Number two is the chicken is ready for us humans to eat. So the chickens are already made into food. So why do we have these two interpretations for the same sentence? Well, it's because we omit, for both sentences, we omitted a part of the underlying sentence structure. The first one is some worms, which the chicken is the eater. And number two is for us, which as humans are the eater. So since we have different sentence structures, we'll have different interpretations. So syntax is study things like this. Okay, let's move along. Semantics. Oh, semantics. How I love you. Semantics is actually very hard. Sometimes people say it's very intuitive, but actually it's very counterintuitive. Semantics is the study of meaning. But what is meaning? Is meaning something out there that we humans just grab and attach to the sentences or words we say, or meanings are manifested within the sentence or the words themselves? Oh my gosh, you can see how quickly this inquiry can turn into a very philosophical one. And most of questions we don't really have answers. We just ask, and debate. Okay, so in order to show you the complications or complexities of the semantics, I'll give you three sentences. Apples are fruit. Apples are sweet. Apples are mine. Alright, so my question is, are these are, the word are, in the same sense? What does it mean? So number one, apples are fruit. Does that mean apple is a member of the fruit family? Right? And number two, apples are sweet. Sweet is a quality. So apple, these apples have the characteristics of being sweet. It seems that it's not talking about a member of something, right? And third one, apples are mine. Mine is a possessive, right? It's mine, my apples. So here, are seems to link the possessed and the possessor, right? So although English uses the same word are for all these three kinds of relationships, but we can definitely imagine some language would not. So let's move along. Next one is pragmatics. Pragmatics studies how language is used in context. So not only every sentences and words have meaning, right? But also they change meanings in a different context. So for example, at a dinner table, you ask someone, "Can you pass the butter?" Can you pass the butter? What do you mean? Are you asking the actual physical abilities of the person or the possibilities of passing the butter? No, you want the butter. So you want the person to pass you the butter. You just very politely using the can question instead of saying, "Pass me the butter." That sounds very demanding and, obnoxious. So if the person did not understand pragmatically what you mean, the person will say, "Of course I can." I don't know what to do other than give myself a face palm. So yeah, pragmatics is really important because we human beings don't always say what we mean and don't always mean what we say, right? So in order to study the interplay, we really need to study pragmatics. So the natural question is, now we're almost at the top of the pyramid. What's above pragmatics? Well, the whole world is your oyster. There are sociolinguistics, study how social interactions intersect with linguistic practices and linguistic behaviors. There are computational linguistics using computational models to mimic human brains and cognitive processes. And language and gender, talking about how sexuality and gender are being performed and practiced and propagated and whatever in the society. And there are language acquisition, how babies learn languages of their mother language, and how second language learners acquire languages through learning. And of course, there are historical linguistics, study the history of linguistics. Actually, historical linguistics comes from philology, and it's one of the very basic and first disciplines of linguistics in human history. So you can see there are so many sub-disciplines and fields of linguistics, and it really requires a lot of years of study. And also, what's your interest? Are you more interested in how social activities affect our linguistic behaviors? Are you more want to study how we can build a mathematical and computational model to process languages? Well, the whole world is your oyster, as I said, so go ahead and fly in the sky of linguistics. Colorful linguistics, how we love you. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe and like the video, and I will try my best to put out more fun contents and useful contents for you to further your journey. Okay, that's all for today. Bye!